The sky above the Parker family farm stretched wide and endless, painted in soft strokes of orange and gold as the sun sank toward the horizon. Fields of wheat rippled in the evening breeze like an ocean of light, and the steady rhythm of cicadas echoed from the edges of the woods. To most, it was an ordinary, quiet farm in the Midwest. But to 11-year-old Emily Parker, this was her kingdom. Her bare feet padded along the dusty path from the chicken coop, a small basket of eggs balanced carefully in her hands. She wore her favorite plaid shirt, a little too big for her small frame, and her long braid bounced behind her as she walked. Her little brother, Jacob, skipped beside her, holding a stick like a sword, swiping at invisible dragons only he could see. Emily giggled softly. "Careful, or you'll break something before we even get home." "Not me," Jacob boasted, thrusting the stick into the air. "I'm protecting us. Just like Dad." At the mention of their father, Emily's smile faltered for a second. She loved him dearly, his calm voice, the way he always knew how to fix anything, from a broken fence to a broken heart. But there was something about him too. A heaviness. A silence that sometimes drifted across his face when he thought no one was looking. She didn't understand it, not fully. Their mother, Laura, called out from the barn. "Emily! Jacob! Come inside, it's almost supper." "Coming, Mom," Emily shouted, adjusting the basket in her hands. But before they could take another step, voices broke the peace. "You two lost?" Emily's heart sank. She knew that voice. Two teenage boys, maybe 16 or 17, walked down the dirt road toward them. Both wore matching blue and gold varsity jackets from the nearby high school. Their hair was slick, their grins sharp. Emily recognized them, Kyle and Trevor. They'd mocked her at school before, whispered cruel things in hallways, made jokes about her clothes, her quietness, her family's farm. But now, seeing them here on the edge of her home, felt different. More dangerous. Well, Trevor sneered, stepping in front of her. "Little farm girl, carrying dinner for the pigs." He reached out as if to grab an egg. Emily's hands tightened around the basket. "Don't touch it," she whispered, though her voice wavered. Jacob stepped forward, gripping his stick like a weapon. "Leave us alone." The boys laughed. Kyle shoved Jacob's shoulder, knocking him slightly off balance. "Or what? You gonna poke me with that twig?" "Jacob!" Laura's voice rang out sharply as she rushed over, pulling both children behind her. Her heart pounded, but she stood firm. She had endured the condescension of people from town for years, their smug looks and snide remarks about how her husband must have failed in life if he ended up farming. She never fought back. Not for herself. But for her children? That was different. "You leave my kids alone," Laura said, her voice low but fierce. Kyle smirked, his eyes narrowing. "Relax, lady. We're just having a little fun." "Fun?" Laura's jaw clenched. "Intimidating children is your idea of fun?" Trevor leaned closer, his smirk twisting darker. "This road doesn't belong to you. Maybe it's time you and your brats learned where you stand." The air grew thick. Emily clutched her mother's waist, her eyes wide with fear. Jacob's stick trembled in his grip. And then, the crunch of boots on gravel. Slow. Heavy. Certain. All eyes turned toward the sound. From across the field, a tall figure emerged, walking with steady, deliberate steps. The fading sunlight caught his face, casting half of it in shadow. His shoulders were broad, his movements calm, his eyes unreadable. Daniel Parker. To the world, he was just another farmer. To his family, he was a loving father and husband. But beneath the surface lived something far more formidable. A man forged in fire, trained in silence, shaped by one of the most elite military units in existence, Delta Force. A man who had seen the darkest corners of humanity and survived. And now, that man was walking toward his family. Before we continue, if this story has already gripped you, I'd love for you to be part of our community here at Soul Touch Stories. We share powerful tales of courage, resilience, and love, the kind of stories that stay with you long after the video ends.
Hit that subscribe button right now, so you don't miss the next one.
Daniel's voice broke the tension, deep and controlled.
Step away from my family.
Kyle laughed, though there was a flicker of unease in his eyes.
Or what?
You gonna scare us off with your farmer muscles?
Trevor added, Old man, this doesn't concern you. Go back to your chickens. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. It concerns me the second you touch what's mine.
And I promise you, you don't want to see where this goes.
The boys hesitated.
Something in his tone was different.
Too steady. Too dangerous. But pride can be blinding.
Kyle shoved Jacob again, harder this time.
See? What are you gonna do about it?
It happened so fast, Emily barely saw it.
Daniel closed the distance in 3 strides.
His hand snapped around Kyle's wrist, twisting it in a controlled grip that made the boy gasp in shock and pain. At the same moment, his leg shifted, sweeping Trevor's foot just enough to send him stumbling backward into the dirt.
Daniel's movements weren't wild or frantic.
They were precise.
Efficient.
The kind of control only a soldier of his caliber could possess.
Kyle's bravado melted into panic. Let go. Let go.
Daniel's voice dropped to a deadly whisper.
You think you're men because you prey on children? Try that against someone who can fight back.
But know this, you will never, ever come near my family again. He released Kyle with a sharp push, sending him stumbling beside his friend.
Both boys scrambled to their feet, their faces pale, their arrogance shattered.
Without another word, they bolted down the road, too terrified to look back.
The farmyard fell silent again.
Daniel turned toward his family.
Laura's eyes glistened with a mixture of relief and fear.
Emily clutched Jacob's hand, her small body trembling. Daniel knelt, his strong hands gentle as he touched Emily's shoulder.
It's over, he said softly. You're safe.
But Laura saw more than her children did. She saw the shadows behind Daniel's eyes, the echoes of battlefields, the weight of promises he had made to himself that he wouldn't need to fight anymore.
Yet here he was, dragged back into conflict on his own doorstep. That night, the family ate dinner quietly.
The children were unusually silent, the weight of the encounter heavy on their minds. When Emily finally spoke, her voice was fragile.
Daddy, were you scared? Daniel set down his fork, looking into her eyes.
Yes, sweetheart.
I was. Her brow furrowed. But you didn't look scared.
That's because being brave doesn't mean you're not afraid, Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion.
It means you do what's right, even when you are afraid.
Those words sank deep into her heart. But the days that followed weren't easy. Emily grew quieter, her laughter dimmed. Jacob became restless, picking fights at school to prove he wasn't weak. Laura worried that fear and violence were leaving scars deeper than any bruise. And Daniel, he wrestled with his own demons, wondering if he could ever truly shield his family from the darkness of the world. Late one night, Daniel sat alone in the barn, the smell of hay and oil surrounding him. His hands traced the worn wood, but his mind wandered far from the farm. He remembered deserts under burning suns, jungles thick with shadows, missions where survival was a question of seconds. He had walked away from that life to build something pure. But had the battlefield ever really let him go? Laura found him there, his shoulders bowed beneath invisible weight. She touched his arm gently. You can't protect them from everything, Daniel. But you can teach them how to stand tall. That's what they need most. Her words cut through the darkness. And for the first time in years, Daniel understood his mission wasn't to fight every battle for his children. It was to give them the strength to face their own. The next morning, Daniel gathered Emily and Jacob in the fields. Under the wide blue sky, he taught Jacob how to stand firm, not with fists, but with confidence. He showed Emily that courage wasn't about size or strength, but about heart. They practiced, they stumbled, they laughed, and slowly, the fear began to fade. If this story has touched you, I'd love for you to support us here at Soul Touch Stories. Hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so we can keep bringing you stories that move and inspire. That autumn, as the air turned crisp and the leaves flamed red and gold, the Parker family sat together on their porch. Wrapped in blankets, they watched the stars bloom in the night sky. Emily leaned against her father, her voice small but certain. "Daddy, will the bullies come back?" Daniel looked down at his children, then out at the horizon. His voice was steady, filled with quiet conviction. "Maybe. The world will always have people who try to tear others down. But remember this, you are stronger than they'll ever know. And as long as we stand together, there is nothing we can't face." The farm was quiet once more. But this time, the silence wasn't heavy with fear. It was filled with peace. With strength. With love. And Daniel Parker knew, as he held his family close, that though he had left the battlefield behind, his greatest mission had only just begun. Because sometimes, true warriors aren't remembered for the wars they fight. They are remembered for the families they protect.